you're sure to rest easy. Visit our mattress shop today, only at Value City Furniture.
Good morning, America. Supreme Court showdown. Judge Brett Kavanaugh and the woman accusing him of sexual assault when they were both in high school now being called on to publicly testify in front of Congress. Kavanaugh accepts, no response yet from the accuser, while President Trump stands by his nominee.
Breaking overnight, the new threat from Florence, sparking more than a dozen reported tornadoes. As the storm moves north and rivers rise to dangerous levels in the Carolinas, forcing hundreds of rescues from neck-high waters. Now 30 million Americans from Virginia to Massachusetts on alert for flooding.
Murder, She Wrote. Did the romance novelist who penned these novels in an essay called How to Murder Your Husband do just that? What she said at her husband's vigil and why she's now facing charges.
New overnight, leaving the talk. Host Julie Chen, the wife of fired CBS executive Les Moonves, now set to leave her show today as her husband faces sexual misconduct allegations.
And a marvelous night for Mrs. Maisel at the Emmys. Game of Thrones reigning supreme. And Henry Winkler, the Fonz, taking home a trophy more than 40 years in the making. But the biggest winner of them all...
I want to call you my wife.
What the couple at the center of this show-stopping moment is telling GMA backstage.
Good morning, America. We're engaged.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America. Wasn't that such a sweet moment? Such a talented couple as well.
Yep, they met working on the Tonys, and they've been together for more than a decade. She says she had no idea that proposal was coming, and you can tell she had no idea. We can't wait to hear what they told Lara backstage.
And she might not have had a choice in front of all those millions of people, but she seemed to enjoy it a lot. We're going to get to that later. We begin, though, with that Supreme Court showdown. The president's nominee, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and his accuser, both invited to testify on Capitol Hill Monday, a high-stakes hearing. Everything on the line for Kavanaugh, a huge test for President Trump. And our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, starts us off from the Supreme Court. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, George. This is shaping up to be one of the most dramatic moments in a Washington hearing room in decades. Both Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, called to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee in public under oath next Monday. Judge Kavanaugh has accepted the invitation, says he wants to defend his integrity. The committee is still waiting to hear formally from Blasey Ford. But should it happen, this is going to boil down to her word against his, a credibility contest. Supreme Court nominee Judge Brett Kavanaugh and the woman accusing him of sexual assault decades ago have been called to testify publicly before lawmakers next Monday, delaying a key vote on Kavanaugh and the future of the High Court. While President Trump defended his nominee on Monday,
he is one of the great intellects and one of the finest people that anybody has known.
He also uncharacteristically called for patience.
They'll go through a process and hear everybody out. I think it's important. If it takes a little delay, it'll take a little delay.
One Republican senator on the committee says Kavanaugh's accuser deserves to be heard, and he wouldn't have voted for Kavanaugh otherwise.
What I just insisted on is that we not have a vote. I would have voted no this week, absent her being able to tell her story. And so I'm glad she's going to be able to.
Kavanaugh's accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, a psychology professor in California, seen here in this yearbook photo from the period when she claims Kavanaugh assaulted her, told the Washington Post Kavanaugh pinned her to a bed and groped her. When she tried to yell, Blasey Ford told the Post, Kavanaugh clapped his hand over her mouth to silence her. He was trying to attack me and remove my clothing, she says, adding, I thought he might inadvertently kill me. She says she managed to escape. Kavanaugh has categorically denied the accusation. Blasey Ford alleges the assault happened while Kavanaugh attended an elite boys' school in suburban Maryland. Georgetown Preparatory School, located on a sprawling campus, bills itself as America's oldest Catholic boarding school. Allies of Kavanaugh released statements from two of his former girlfriends, both of whom pushed back on the allegations. Maura Fitzgerald saying, he was always a perfect gentleman, and I vouch for him completely. This morning, a number of women who have attended Blasey Ford's private all-girls high school, Holton Arms, are circulating a letter in support of her. They say over 400 alumni, including many who do not know Blasey Ford, have signed a letter that reads, Her experience is all too consistent with stories we heard and lived while attending Holton. Many of us are survivors ourselves. Actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus tweeting, "I was class of '79 and signed this letter." Another alumna who attended the school in the 1990s and says she signed the letter tells ABC News she believes Blasey Ford.
I just want to say to her, to Dr. Ford, that we have your back. And I think that's very much the Holton Arms way.
Blasey Ford has told friends she's been trying to forget this incident her whole life, according to a story in the local newspaper. She says she's bracing for attacks on her credibility, but she also says, the newspaper says, that she was inspired to come forward this summer by all the women who have done so in the Me Too movement. George? Okay, Terry, thanks very much. Speaking our legal team right now, our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, our senior legal correspondent and analyst, Sunny Hostin. And as we said, Dr. Blasey Ford has not yet agreed to testify formally. Democrats are saying you have to have an FBI examination before a public hearing. Why would that be important?
Well, look, for the Democrats, they would say that they want the FBI to follow leads. They want to talk to witnesses, et cetera. The FBI is not investigating a crime here. What the FBI is doing is effectively a background check. And what the Democrats want is that investigation to continue. And the issue is going to be, does that investigation move forward? Do they spend a lot more time on that? Or does this simply become a question of watching him testify again and potentially her?
And you think she has no choice?
She has no choice. She has to testify. But I think it's very important that the background check continue. When I was a federal prosecutor, I was only looking at a 3-year appointment. This is a lifetime appointment. The FBI went to my former neighborhood and interviewed my neighbors. I hadn't lived there since I was 16 years old, George. And so this is a very, very serious background investigation that needs to continue.
One of the points that Republican defenders of Kavanaugh has made is he's had these background checks several times for federal judgeships, for working in the White House, and this never came up.
Yes, but this is also different. This is also different. This is a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. Character matters. And this woman's bravery, I think, coming forward is extremely important. And to those people that I keep on hearing saying things like, well, this happened in high school. He was only 17 years old. Well, guess what? In Maryland and states all across the country, for sexual assault, we do criminalize 16-year-olds. You can go to prison for that.
That gets to the question, if this hearing happens on Monday, they're both up there, they both tell their story to the country, what will be the standard of proof for Kavanaugh?
I think Sonny's right, that the notion that, oh, you can sort of dismiss this and say it happened 35 years ago, because what the standard is going to be is today, do they believe Kavanaugh's telling the truth? He's the one up there. He's the one who's up for the appointment. He's the one who's accused. And he's going to be the one that they're focusing on in terms of his credibility. Do they believe he's telling the truth? And remember, unlike in a trial where you're told, do not read things, do not let people affect your opinion, here public opinion is going to matter enormously as to whether they believe him and do they believe her.
And flip that around, Sonny, but if they both testify, to vote for Kavanaugh, you're going to have to, at some level, be saying, she's not telling the truth.
You must disbelieve her. Exactly, and I think she's very much on trial here. I've interviewed hundreds of crime victims, especially victims of sexual assault. This is one of the most difficult things they can do, and this woman is not only doing it, she's not doing it in a court of law, she's doing it on the world stage. So for her to come forward and put her credibility, I think, on the line is extremely significant, considering that we're in the Me Too movement.
It sounds
right
like
now.
the defense here is going to be, maybe she thinks that this happened, right? Maybe she believes that this happened. Could it have been a case of mistaken identity? Could there be other explanations? But the point is that exactly what happened 35 years ago, where did it happen, what was the date, et cetera, becomes less important today, I think, than simply do they think that Judge Kavanaugh is telling the truth.
It sounds like this is going to be a huge gut check for the Senate and the country.
Absolutely, and let's face it, on the GOP side, you have older white men only interviewing this woman. I think that that is an optic that the GOP has to be very careful about.
We'll see. Thank you both very much, Robin.
All right, George, thank you. And this morning, President Trump is also issuing an order to declassify and release material related to the Russia investigation, including former FBI Director James Comey's text messages. ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas has more. He's there in Washington for us. Good morning, Pierre.
Robin, good morning. The president has been fuming about how the Russia investigation was initially launched, so he's declassifying part of a super secret national security warrant tied to Russia. He's also planning to release communications, including text messages from former officials he views as biased against him, basically his enemies. Among them, former FBI Director James Comey, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok, those two former FBI officials who wrote negative comments about Trump during the campaign, Robin.
And how are the Justice Department and the intelligence community and Democrats responding to all this, Pierre?
Well, the release of these documents will not be immediate, and the potential for tension remains between the White House and law enforcement. The Justice Department said last night that it had begun the process reviewing these documents to comply with the president's order, but officials there noted that the review had to, quote, ensure the safety of America's national security interests. As for Democrats, Adam Schiff, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, called the declassification a clear abuse of power. But the White House says the president is doing this at the request of congressional committees, and this is for transparency. This fight will continue, Robin.
It will. All right, Pierre, thank you. Michael?
All right, thank you, Robin. And now to the new threat from Florence. Rising waters in the Carolinas are threatening to make historic flooding even worse. The storm blamed for at least 32 deaths, more than 4,000 homes damaged or destroyed in just one North Carolina town. And take a look at these images. The one on the left is the Cape Fear River on Sunday. The one on the right, that is 24 hours later, the bridge almost underwater. ABC's Eva Pilgrim is in Lumberton, North Carolina with the very latest. Good morning to you, Eva.
Good morning, Michael. You can see the flooding. This house surrounded by water, these cars just stranded. Take a look at our drone shot. You can see all the water that we're looking at. This neighborhood has been invaded by that water. It now looks like it's in the middle of a lake.
This morning, Florence's deadly grip won't let up. Some rivers just now cresting. The number of people rescued growing, more than 2,500 North Carolina alone, including this family. They were pulled to safety out of neck-high water.
Come to my boys! Come to my boys!
The mother, pregnant, clinging to her children. Others plucked from rooftops. This man and his dog airlifted to safety. In some parts, at this point, the only way in or out is through the water.
All right, we're crossing. This is the Lumber River.
We followed a group in Lumberton checking on neighbors, first by car, then by boat.
This is a main highway. This is Hestertown Road.
As they rode through flooded streets, a woman coming out needing help. She didn't want to leave, but she did need safe water she could drink.
She said she don't want to leave her house, but she needs water. Her life's in jeopardy by her staying there.
Entire towns underwater for days. Record-breaking flooding in the town of Chinkopin. Only rooftops, the church steeple, and the town's water tower peeking through.
Yeah, it looks like the water's still flowing over here.
The city of Wilmington now virtually cut off. This stretch of interstate resembling a river, completely flooded. This man looking for gas forced to crawl along a railing because of a road collapse. Others waiting in long lines for supplies.
Close to 2 hours. So I don't want to give up now.
Outside of Charlotte, tragedy. Officials finding the body of one-year-old Caden Lee Welch.
This mama has suffered tragically.
The toddler swept away by floodwaters after the car he was riding in got pinned against trees. Caden's mom able to free him from his car seat, but lost her grip as they tried to escape.
And you can see just how much water we are looking at in this neighborhood. This is a scene we saw over and over again as we flew over North Carolina. It hasn't rained here now in almost 24 hours, but the water hasn't receded. And the most recent numbers are in, get this, guys, Florence dumped more than 8 trillion gallons of water on North Carolina, and you see a lot of it still sitting here.
Certainly do. Eva, thank you so much. And those drone shots really give you a perspective of what they're dealing with. Now to television's biggest night, the Emmy Awards, the evening belonging to Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Game of Thrones, but diversity also taking center stage. Lara was backstage for it all, and she's still there for us right now. Good morning, Lara.
Good morning, Robin. Yes, 70 years old. That's how old the Emmys are this year. But last night, the show felt younger, fresher, and more relevant than it has in years. From the show's opening act, poking fun at the Emmys' historic lack of diversity.
We solved it. We've gotten with the times.
There's room for all our voices, but mostly Shonda Rhimes.
Is there any room in this song for a straight white guy like me?
Anyway, you can't be a part of that.
Yeah, sounds good. Have fun, you guys.
To the topical humor of the show's hosts, Colin Jost and Michael Che.
It is an honor to be here sharing this night with the many, many talented and creative people in Hollywood who haven't been caught yet.
That's right.
A cast of characters from Saturday Night Live dominating the presenting portion of the Emmys.
Oh, that is her famous ball of ribbons.
Right, and she's holding it up to the light to see if it's dirty.
And it's not, yay!
SNL also snagging a trophy for Best Variety Show.
Let me just say, I love my job, and I love the people I work with.
But it was Amazon's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that stole the show, including Best Supporting Actress Alex Borstein.
I want to thank everyone at Amazon. I want to thank Amy Sherman Palladino. You are my friend. I love you and I hate you.
Best Actress Rachel Brosnahan.
My friends and my family, you are absolutely everything to me.
And Best Comedy.
Thank you so much from all of us. Again, thank you to the viewers. Thank you.
And the crowd roaring when Regina King won Lead Actress in a limited series for her role in 7 Seconds.
Really? Say word. Oh my God, okay.
While the highly competitive drama category saw split wins in the lead acting categories. Matthew Rhys winning for The Americans.
Parts like these come along so rarely, and what you created, wrote, and risked, I will be forever in your debt.
And Claire Foy taking the crown.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
But when Best Drama was announced, it went to HBO's behemoth, Game of Thrones.
We didn't invent these characters. That was George R.R. Martin. We could not have, the show could not be without the mad genius of George.
And one more really special moment, watching Henry Winkler win his first ever Emmy after a 40-plus year career. He was beaming when he came backstage to talk to us. He said that he started playing the Fonz when he was 27. That's when he first got his Emmy nomination. And all it took was flipping that number to his current age, 72, to finally take home that statuette. Guys, back to you.
Oh, he was something else last night.
And he's so funny in that show, Barry.
Can we hear from the Fonz? Let's hear what he said.
We
I
did.
wrote this 43 years ago. Okay, can I just say, Skip Brittenham said to me a long time ago, if you stay at the table long enough, the chips come to you. And tonight, I got to clear the table.
I love it.
Yes, he did. He got to clear the table. He was so much fun. We're going to have a lot more with the Fonz coming up later in the show.
All right, Lara, thank you very much. And I was so happy also for Regina King. She has been doing this a long time and so incredibly talented. And you could see her reaction. Some of the speeches last night.
She almost didn't get up there.
Yeah, you, Regina.
Congratulations to everybody, all the winners out there. We're going to go to Ginger in Washington with the latest on those deadly tornadoes. Ginger?
Yes, a flash flood watch in place here in Washington, D.C. still. You can feel that hot and sticky air responsible for those tornadoes. Several reported in this video that you're seeing from Midlothian, Virginia. It's just about 2 hours south of where we are. Some of the tornadoes fatal as a building collapsed in Virginia. Want to quickly look at what's happening weather-wise. Oh, and we will get to that in just a bit. But for now, we have to get to the Tuesday trivia brought to you by Capital One.
It makes me feel like that.
The new Capital One Saver Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and 4% on entertainment. Now when you go out, you cash in. What's in your wallet?
Well, with a lot of heavy rain and storms overnight, watch out for high water. This morning, an isolated shower, otherwise warm and muggy, temperatures in the 70s. Now, we will have scattered showers and storms possible through at least 6 o'clock. Flash flood watch in effect until 6 as well. By 7 o'clock, starting to dry out, partly cloudy, 78. And then tomorrow and Thursday, really through the rest of the work week, sunshine returns. Temperatures will still be warm, warmer than average in the 80s, but the humidity will be a little bit lower. More changes coming this weekend.
Coming up, the talk host Julie Chen reportedly leaving her show today as her husband Les Moonves faces those sexual misconduct allegations.
And Elizabeth Smart outraged at the woman who held her captive set to be released from prison. Now J.C. Dugard, fellow kidnapping survivor, speaking up in support.
Are you not Elizabeth Salander?